Welcome back to the Dopesick Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but have been off heroin since April 9th, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison, but also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened when I was actually in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison, you want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, a former Green Bay Packers lineman was in the prison at Petersburg. I'm sure he's still there. Big man, probably about 6'3", 280. Giant upper half. But lower half, little tiny. He had a leg injury. Now this person wasn't an inmate. This was a CO, and he was one of the worst ones out of the bunch. Majority of people cannot stand him. He plucked your nerves just to pluck your nerves. Okay? Complete. Oh my Lord. I'm going to tell you about some of the stuff he did. Try to be super CO and just be a prick. So, at the medium security, my first run-in with him, I got put in the kitchen. I got fired from rec, which was a no-pay, no-show job, but apparently they told everybody to make an appearance. I guess I was taking a nap that day. I didn't hear it, so I got put in the kitchen. And once you're in the kitchen, you got to stay there for 90 days. So, see, you have to have a job on paper, but half the people in prison have just no-show jobs, no-pay jobs. It just says you on there for the record. So that's what I had at rec. Got fired from and ended up in that kitchen. So you try to get out of the kitchen by 6 o'clock. You have to sit in there all day. My only job was to wipe the tables down once everybody ate. But the entirety of the time that I'm have to sit in the kitchen from it's like 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes 7 p.m. if you don't get out on time. I'm just sitting there at tables talking to people. There's probably actually 20 minutes of actual action of work that I was doing when I was in there, which that is just stupid to me. Now, if I'm actually doing something, okay, that makes sense. But just to waste time just for the sake of it, oh man, it pissed me off. Now, I had this tyrant, ignorant counselor. Terrible, terrible woman. Terrible. Pinto knows her. She ended up at the low. Oh, God, they put me in her unit specifically because she'd read every email, listen to every phone call, and if she heard you saying something about the staff, she's going to try to intimidate you into not doing that anymore. She did that to me. Now, every other counselor in the entire compound, 12 units, 12 counselors, would allow you to get a no-show job working the compound. Now, compound is people who rake the leaves up, if it's, fall, pick trash up. They just walk around with the broom and scrubbing a lot of bird poop. At the medium, specifically the chomos would feed these pigeons. And there were 500 to 1,000 pigeons every morning that would circle the compound. You were getting pooped on at least once every other month. It was going to happen. I mean, you couldn't avoid it. I had this guy, Birdman, who's outside, and he'd feed the birds, and he'd have 100 plus, I'm not exaggerating, 100 plus birds circling around when he fed them, and he'd name the birds and everything, but he'd have them 3, 4 on each arm and 1 on his head. It was a cool sight, but anyway, scrubbing the poop and stuff like that. But people would get a job, a no-show job at compound, just so then they didn't get put in the kitchen. Because if you don't have a job, your counsel's going to put you in the kitchen. And once you're in the kitchen, they force you to stay in there for 90 days. I ended up in there. Surprised me when I got sent. Didn't know that I lost my no-pay, no-show job at rec over some stuff. And you want to get out by 6 o'clock, because if you don't get out by 6 o'clock, right at the end of dinner, like if you don't hurry up and they don't release you, you're stuck there till 7, okay? You're stuck there till 7, just sitting there waiting. And typically we got out by 6, but this particular night we didn't. And they let us go back at like 6:20, 6:30, released us. They usually didn't do that. So me and this guy who we call Can't Get Right, Marcos, there's a story that says manhood taken way down on the list. This poor little fella, his only crime, from what I heard, was illegally entering the country the 3rd or 4th time. Gave him 5 years in prison for that. He was not mentally capable of saying, yeah, I want to cross the border illegally. Somebody had to put him on a bus or across something like that. Like, you could just look at him and tell he wasn't all there. So usually people strap stuff to their bodies to sneak out of the kitchen. This particular day, he's walking back. He's got his khaki shirt on, and he just put bags of chips and stuff down. And he'd have you'd see a lump here, lump. Like it was funny looking at it. It's like, dude. And I'd give him soups a good bit. I'd buy him some soups because he didn't have any money. And when he first got there, he was so scrawny. And when he worked in the kitchen, people put their trays up in the tray window. He'd take people's trays that they done ate with, the same spoon that they ate with, and eat off their tray. And it was pitiful to watch. But anyway, I walk back with him. We get back to the unit. How it is at the medium security at this particular time, I'm not in the drug unit. The drug unit's on the ground floor. There are 4 units in a V-shaped complex. You can't see from one unit to the other when you're on the inside. But to enter the unit I was in, I have to go through an exterior set of stairs that takes you to the 3rd floor, which is the entrance to the top unit. And we go up that exterior set of stairs, knocking on the door. Nobody's come let us in. I mean, I'm out there for like 15, 20 minutes. So I get mad. I start kicking the door. I'm talking donkey kicking it. And this former NFL player that was so high on himself walks out of the cell that he's tossing because he's super CO and just stands there with his arms over the rail and just looks at me. And I'm like, and he just sits there and looks at me. No, nothing. Makes me stand out there until 7 o'clock. Makes me and Marco stand out there till 7 o'clock. Which is at the time where they do a 10-minute move, where anybody can move from place to place. And I start to go in, and he gets in front and tries to like stand over me. He's like, and he starts, interrogating, questioning all this stuff. And, like trying to like bully, intimidation type stuff. Saying, why were you on the compound when it was closed? I said, because I was in the kitchen and they released us to come back. And he was like giving me a lecture and everything else. I'm trying not to get on his bad side, but like it's annoying. And he was trying to do the bully thing, and I can't stand a freaking bully. Okay, ends up nothing coming of it, but that was my first one. It kind of got me on his bad side a little bit. But he looked at Marcos, and he normally would write people up, take stuff from you. He couldn't even take that from Marcos that day, though. He looks at Marcos with the lump sticking out of him all over the place where he had stuff just shoved down his shirt. I mean, it looks silly. And he goes, my man, you have to do better than that next time. And let him on by. But that was one of the few times he did that. But see, at the meeting, we didn't have weights. So we lifted dirt sewn up in sheets, khaki pants that people in the leather shop would make. Kevin Crockett, I am actually going to call him today. There's been stuff happening. Idiot redneck woman threatening my dog and everything else. But he would make the most incredible leather stuff. He made me punching mitts. Now, you can't have punching mitts. You can't get caught hitting punching mitts. That's a 200 series shot. They can take your visits commissary for 6 months to a year if you get caught doing that. Still did it, though. Did it anyway. Had a few people, that we had a whole routine, about 2 hours a day, hitting the mitts and everything else. But he would make this stuff, and he had these, dirt bags. It's a dirt bag. It's filled with dirt, and we had a deadlift bag that was 18 inches, is either 16 or 18 inches in diameter, and about 6-7 foot long. And we'd wrap belts around it. They're fabric belts, but like you wrap the belt around it, you click the belt, and you take canes like old people take to walk, and you have to lift it with one thing with the belt in between each finger, and we deadlift like that. It's like 300 pounds of dirt. It'd tear your shins up something awful because it would have to drag against your shins to lift it up. But one day he comes out, and you'd see him coming. And a lot of the bags you can hide. You can put, people put them in the bathroom, everywhere else, because you're not supposed to have them. And we see him coming. Can't. It's a 300-pound bag. It's 6 foot long and 18 inches in diameter. Can't get that one hit him quick enough. So he walks over, pulls out his pocket knife, like, well, what do we have here? Cuts it open, dumps it out, carries it off with him, talking crap to us. And I mean, that's what he'd do. Most of the COs didn't bother you about it. He would tear it up every time. And you'd think somebody that was into fitness and working out and stuff would see it as a positive thing, that we're trying to lift rather than do drugs or run around gambling and just doing stupid stuff. But so yeah, he'd hit us there every time, and I could not stand him. When I got back to the low security, I lived downstairs. The first 6 months I lived upstairs. when he worked our unit, typically they'd work your unit for 3 months at a time. First day he's working our unit, it's like 6:30 a.m. They let people to go eat at 7 o'clock. I hear this fool singing. He's standing by the door. It's quadrants, kind of like a dorm type setting, but there's a hallway, a door, it opens up. I can hear him singing like he's standing in the room with me. Singing, just to be ignorant. There are people that have worked the night shift, people that have different hours, different routines. It's 6:30 in the morning, this fool's singing just to wake people up and annoy people. He would do stuff just to be a bully, just to be a prick. And now I had this buddy Boone. His nickname was Big Midget. It was his own nickname. No offense to anybody. That's what he called it. And Pinto would tell you, Boone was about 5'4", 240, not a bit fat. He could deadlift over 600, squat in the mid 500s, and bench well over 400. But he had this big head, and little people, LPs, whatever the PC thing for it is. I'm not trying, don't have an army of small people picking at me after this. But, because I mean no harm whenever I say stuff. I'm not all that politically correct, but I don't mean anybody to get their feelings hurt. I was telling him, because Boone was Boone was my buddy. He got me right in the workout group as soon as I got back to the load. Typically, it takes you a few months because you can't just go out there and lift. You got to have a crew. Each bar, each set of dumbbells, there's 7 bars. It gets passed from crew to crew, each hour, each 10-minute move. And he got me right in with his crew. And anyway, I was telling him, man, I can't stand the former Green Bay Packers player. I said, I can't stand him. I said, man, he's racist and everything. I said, racist bully. He said, man, he ain't all that bad. He said, you just got to know how to talk to him. Like, what are you talking about? He said, man, you just got to feed his ego. He said, he has never once searched my locker since I asked him for workout tips. Ask him, tell him about your deadlift. He'll respect that because that's something that, he respects. And ask him for some bench press advice. He said, the one workout we did the other day, he said he actually told me that's the workout he gave me. And the workout he had, it was like doing a 5-rep on bench press with the flat bench, and then somebody'd hand you dumbbells, and you do another set of 8, just back to back. So, we did the same workout, but like it was heavier dumbbells. See, we would take a belt and cut it and then tie it together so it just made a circle. And link 2 dumbbells together. Dumbbells only went up to 60, but you get a 60 and a 50, you put that belt around it, you hold the one with the belt, and the second 50 is dangling below. It scrape your arms and hit a little bit. It was a little awkward, but you had 110-pound dumbbells in the press. So, I asked this former football player, I'm like, shoot, man, I'm going to give it a try. And I went up to him and said, hey, I said, man, I work out with Boone, right? He's like, oh, yeah. He said, you work out? I said, man, I got a 565 deadlift. I said, I probably deadlift more than most people who you probably play ball with. Just talking crazy, just acting a little but not being like arrogant, just like cracking up. I said, but here's my problem, man. I said, my bench press is something I'm having difficulty bringing up. Boone says it's because I got white people genetics. And he laughed at that. And Boone did tell me that. He said white people get legs and back grow quicker. He said, but chest and arms will take you a little bit more. He said shoulders, it's about the same through and through. But shoot, he was right. I mean, he told me that starting out. And legs and back, that went up quick. I mean, I got up when I was deadlifting in 500s. My bench press wasn't nothing but like 235, 245. I got stuck there for a good bit. But anyway, I said, my bench press stuck down, but I'm trying to get it up, man. I said, it's pitiful. I said, I'm deadlifting, I said, I'm doing 495 for sets of 5, but I can't even bench press, but, like 235, 245. And he's like, well, here's something. He gave me a little thing, and I'm like, thank you, man. And, you don't talk in private to a CEO. That's a no-no. They have an office that's about the size of a closet. They have an air conditioner in that office. We didn't have air conditioning anywhere else in the low security, besides the TV room, which is why I stayed in there so much. But anyway, in public, whenever you're getting ready to go to dinner, and the CEO stands next to the door waiting for them to call your building, That was the time whenever I do that. But I did this. And it was the only time I spoke to them. Next 3 months, didn't search my locker not a once. Not once. There are people that are egomaniacs, bullies, and people of the sort, COs. And I found that if you could find a common interest to show that, you're not just a piece of trash, actually got a common interest, that they treat you better. Now, the first thing I do is I go and I'd say, listen, I don't cause any problems. I don't do drugs, any of that. I get a little food from the kitchen from time to time. Nothing crazy, though. I said, but just I'm in here for dope. Don't have any chomo chart. I'm just letting you know that. And a lot of them be like, it doesn't matter what you're in here for to me. And I'm like, well, you say that, but be that as it may, I'm just letting you know I didn't mess with any kids, and that's something I want to be known. And when I said that, a lot of the COs wouldn't mess with me because a lot of the white people in there, just straight up, a lot of the white people in there were chomos, okay? So, and me being not typical criminal with how I talk, and everything else, I had to let them know, nah, not me. You can look it up, and they can look it up, and they do look inmates up, and gosh, guards put some of them inmates out there about some stuff. But anyway, yeah, it kept him from messing with me for a good bit. But he was terrible. He was terrible. They said he was bench pressing over 500. They said he was bench pressing over 500. A lot of those COs did steroids. You tell they did steroids. There was one that could have been a pro bodybuilder. It was about 240 to 260 of muscle. About my height, about my bone structure. I'm smaller bone, okay? Reasonably muscular for my height and bone structure. But, for me to get, big, I'd have to have something. And, I ain't been opposed to taking it. It's just I'm kind of a recluse, and I wouldn't know where to get it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that one CI I just mentioned, for him to be, my bone structure and be that big, this dude was it looked like a miniature. If you made Ronnie Coleman 5'9", that's how this dude was built. It's crazy. And they said he was repping 495 on bench. I believe it. But there's a culture, of the steroids and lifting, and it was a respect thing, not only with the inmates, but the COs. The COs that were on steroids knew that you lifted something, especially if you lift more than them on something, I'm guessing. It was something that they leave you alone over. It's kind of a weird concept, weird thing. I am all but certain that I'm autistic. It's been suggested before. I have certain habits, I have certain routines. Talk about my mental health issues openly. I hate for people to mess with my stuff. To touch. I have everything in a certain place. I'm OCD. Casey, my fiance, when we first got together, she thought I was hiding something. No. Anything you want to say, I will show you, but don't just go messing and have everything, because I know where everything is at that is mine. And I know where to go to get it. And it's, I hated when COs would tear through my stuff and go through my stuff. The whole time they were sitting in there doing a search, I would feel like I was going to implode. I felt like my head was going to pop off. I'd be sitting there and I could feel the vein popping out of my forehead. And if I had something from the kitchen, I'd walk in. I'm getting agitated even just talking about it. I'd say, listen, in the one locker, you have an office-sized trash can that nobody uses for trash. Everybody uses it to put ice in. They got ice machines. And you put the bread bag full of meat that you buy from the kitchen in that. You put the ice on top of that. And that's how you keep it cold. You salt the ice, it locks up, keeps it cold. And I just tell them, I go in there and I tell the CEO, listen, I've got the meat in there. I say, that's all I've got, so you can go ahead and take that if that's what you want. And there was this woman, ugly as sin. People still hit on her though. And I said, listen, that's where it's at, I said, I hate people going through. I don't have anything bad. I don't do anything bad. Just go ahead and take my food, let that be it. She said, I don't care if you have food. You don't? I'm looking for hard contraband. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have that neither. Well, be that as it may, I'm going to continue my search. She shut the door, walked out about 10 minutes later, and shrugged her shoulders and walked on. But even then, the whole time she's in there, I feel like my head's going to pop off. But this one CEO, the former football player, he's a bully. He's a prick. Even the warden, they said the warden at Petersburg. Big dude, black dude, bald head. He looked like somebody. He looked like he'd be a TV character, like a TV warden or something. Little goatee and just chest that came out to here. Said he was pushing up a high end of 400. He wasn't a bad dude. I can't say he was terrible in terms of like doing bad stuff, like wrong stuff. But in terms of getting stuff done, you needed to get done. Nah. You know, my stepdad couldn't get put on my visitation list because we get a visiting form sent into prison. You have to say you knew the person for 5 years prior to when you got incarcerated. You get people to lie. You meet girls on prison pen pals. They write you get them to lie. If you don't do that, they're never going to get to see you. I told my stepdad this. I told him this. But he figured, well, that's not honest. I'm going to write the honest thing down. Well, guess what? He never got to come see me. Him and my mom got married at the courthouse because they figured, well, if we're legally married, and that's how it was. If there's somebody that is family by law, they're supposed to be allowed to see you. I mean, it's my stepdad. Legally at that point, they still wouldn't put him on the list. Oh man, and I mean, don't you think that would have been good to get to know somebody who's your stepdad that you never met, that you're getting ready to go back and be released to live in that house with them? You know, it's a little bit off. But anyway, that's about it for this one, talking about this guy. I've got other stories about him. But anyway, I'm going to talk about something real quick. I've got a lot of plans that I want to rapid fire put into motion. I want to attempt to. There are people, more people than I've thought about, that I was friends with that were in prison at the medium or low with me that are not too terribly far away. I'm going to try to get it to where multiple times a week I have a video with me sitting down talking with these people. That some of the stories I've already talked about, and just let them talk about the stuff that I've already told. You know, there's this guy, Vegas Prison Stories, Rick. He's a great dude. He's caught in the hurricane. His sister had a stroke. He mentioned something about it, and she's using a tablet to communicate because she's having a hard time speaking. There's some people that just are trolls and ignorant. There's somebody in his comment section that went on there and said something like, this is a complete scam. He's trying to get blah, blah, blah people to give him stuff. People were offering to give him stuff. I hope that dude who said that gets herpes. I really do. But yeah, for people who are like, blah, 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 I can tell that you're not telling the truth. Okay, I literally have probably... Look at that table. What's on that table? I literally probably have 15 to 20 people within a 3-hour drive that know every single one of the stories of when I was at the low or at the medium. Like, well, I'd say 90% of them, 90+% of them, of the stories. So it's worth it. It's going to be a hustling, getting around to them. I'm going to drive some of them because, I just don't have the money to be giving everybody to come down to see me and everything, as much as I'd like to. But, I'm going to put some stuff in to try to get this thing going like that. It'd be more fun. And there's some very interesting people, too. Kevin Crockett, the next person I've got in mind. Dude is, the most incredible leather worker I've ever seen in my life. Phenomenal tattoo artist, too. And, we trained jiu-jitsu at the medium. He had Eddie Bravo's Twister book. So we was in the leather shop. That was one of the few places that didn't have a camera. It was an indoor rec, and it was space off to the side. And, yeah, we train in there. And, yeah, he's out now doing his thing, doing good. And he's the next person I'm planning on getting up on here. But I'm going to do that. And also, like I said, I taught those kids the other night. And have some of the, martial arts fighting stuff that I'm going to put on here that I think be interesting and fun. And, it's the people that I train with, a lot of them don't want to be on a YouTube channel called the Dopesick Show, since they're professionals and all that. And I get it. So stuff that I've been wanting to do, I'm seeing it like it's going to materialize like within this month, like in the weeks to come. Like I think it's going to be the biggest change for the good that's happened since I started this thing. Thank you guys for being with me. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here, which there's a lot of you that have been here from like the very beginning. I mean, it's incredible. Thank you guys. I'm going to do everything I can to make this the best that I can make it. still learning. You know what I mean? I've only been doing this like 5 or 6 months, so you know I'm still learning with it. But there's some very interesting and funny people I'm gonna get on here and be a part of this thing, and you know, I think you guys are really gonna like what I've got in store for the future. Sorry, I've been a little behind on the comments. It's been hectic past few days. You know, Pinto came in, hung out with him and his family. Then that woman the other night, even last night, I only slept like 3.5, 4 hours. It feels like I'm sleepwalking, but you know I get it done. So tomorrow I speak at that college. I'm gonna have that recorded too. That'll be interesting. So anyway, if you like the video, press the like button. If not, 25 minutes, 37 seconds of your life, which you'll never get back. And yeah, I was also playing around with some other stuff. Like, you know, it's legal to grow a few plants in Virginia, and I don't personally like it, but I love to grow it. And I haven't done that in a long time, but like with the legalities, me being off probation, that'd be something to be really interesting. And also, don't drink liquor, but I know how to make liquor. And, you know, I think that'd be something that'd be interesting too. Show how to make, you know, 190 proof liquor. And just some interesting stuff. I always had a fascination, you know, just how to make something, how to produce something. Whether it be chemistry, you know, growing, whatever. So anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.